Are you ready?
We're going to have it cauterized by Congress.
Where's the kaboom?
I tried calling, but they don't have a listing for Mr. Wonderful.
What spelling did you use?
Oh, hello there.
What? Wow. I like wood. Deeper and longer.
5 eggs.
Q-snake.
Wow.
Oh, we're about to get started. Hit that like, everybody. Almost live. There we go. Get it together. Okay. Pop out that chat so I can see it. Excellent. Now, that's what's happening. All right, let's see. We're up on Substack. Seems okay. Looking good. All right. Let's fade this out. We're ready to go here. Excellent, and we'll bring me in. Hi, how are you doing, everybody? Welcome. It's HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/HAL Sparks. Great way to support the show on a consistent level. Also, Super Chat's always wondering, we have a goal running right now, and etc. Also, on the 12th, coming up, a week from Saturday, in Chicago, I will be doing a live WCPT event in Northbrook, if you're in that part of the world, that part of the thing. So, yeah, there you have it. And then, what else? Hody Bashes that night, and then, of course, Ultimate Jam Night on the 15th. You guys can come if you're in the LA area to that. It's crazy. Also, speaking of crazy, right now, current state of affairs. Let's see if I can make sure this is all caught up. It is indeed. The vote on to move ahead, not to vote on the bill itself, but to vote on voting on the actually. Not mistaken, there are two more steps. So there's a vote to move it forward, and then there's a vote to bypass committee, and then there's a vote. And so the reason this is stalled is because they don't have the votes for the actual bill itself, and they're trying to cajole those people into it. So even if they came in and these last four not votings came in and voted and put it over the line, got 218, if two of them jump over or whatever, or go past that, they still have to vote again, and then they have to vote on the actual bill. They don't have the votes on the actual bill, even if they have the procedural votes from a bunch of these folks, because some of them are in a big hurry to vote against it on the Republican side. So, there you go. Hopefully that clears up some of the confusion. It's going to continue to be confusing because a lot of the problem has to do with the fact that these assholes have not read this thing, and they're the ones who are wagging a finger about ACA and all kinds of other stuff. Nobody's ever read this thing, even though I personally read the ACA. You guys know this. So when anybody says nobody read it. You just go, Hal Sparks probably read it. He probably took the time to read it. That's, yeah. So, that said, that's just kind of on a general pause right now. Also, well, here, I'll say this on the chat room. Give me 1 second. We will shrink this down. My son is playing gorilla tag really loud outside the door. If that's what you hear, there's not a marauder in the house. He hasn't lost control of his arms or legs. It's just part and parcel to the game. Yes, live from the Never Panic Room. That's right. Chip Ahoy, Republican Chip Roy he's the one flipping out. We'll see him. Well, here you go. This is a good example of this thing. Let me, Theater Moon. Here we go. This will give you an example of what's kind of happening right now. And shrink this down so you guys can see it. Major problems with the big, beautiful bill. This is Chip Roy 11 hours ago when they brought it in. This was right after he was fresh out of committee talking to somebody at the Blase. I don't know what this fella's name, Puffy McChipmunk Face, whoever he is.
Chip Roy is with us from the great state of Texas. Chip is a congressman, and welcome to the program. How are you, Chip?
Yes, we call him
Well,
Buffalo.
Glenn,
we call him Buffalo Chip Roy. Sorry.
Just continuing to work through and trying to deliver for the American people, but it's getting...
Look at the title of this. Chip Roy exposes how the Senate swampified the big, beautiful bill. Now, how do you vote for the swampified big, beautiful bill? How do you swampify it and then vote for it? I mean, not only does it raise the debt ceiling, not only does it add to the debt and the deficit, not only does it not make the cuts they insisted had to be there for them to raise the debt ceiling and the debt and the deficit, not only doesn't it do any of those things and turns its back on, a bunch of like really vulnerable people in red states, many of whom voted for, the king of the MAGAts, right? And never mind how do you vote for it when it's got all those things in it. Much less when you've gone on the Blase and said that the Senate swampified it. So you're going to vote for the swampified bill, are you? All you maggots out there? All you Freedom Caucasians?
Hard. I'm with you. I'm tired of this bill right now.
Yeah, you're living the dream, brother. You are just living. Who doesn't want your job? My gosh, what a glorious, glorious, fun-filled life you must live.
Glenn Beck, living proof that sarcasm is what idiots have instead of a sense of humor.
Tell me.
Also, seriously, do you just live with one of the Village people, or? Cause I gotta say, there's something really bizarre about this. Like, I wish I had childhood, Red Ryder BB gun room fake facade space that Glenn has built for himself. Whatever the shit this is.
God, there's no sarcasm at all in what you're just saying. None at all.
Tell me, has this thing gotten better or worse?
Unfortunately, Glenn, I believe it's gotten worse. Now,
yeah, there you go. It's gotten worse. By the way, worse means it was bad already. Way to sell your own shit, dummy. That doesn't occur to them while they're talking about it? That for something to get worse, it has to have been bad to start with? Okay. Hey, look at that. We're already in agreement with Chip fucking Roy.
we've not seen the final product out of the Senate. We don't have the text. We've got to review it. I try to be level-headed.
By the way, it was worse.
I have enormously strong and...
It was worse even than that. Gene, thank you, and Bridget, and thank you so much. Good Lord, Gene, that's so lovely. And Laura, thank you, and Deanne. You are a punctual bunch. I'm sorry if I was a little bit late getting things started, but I was trying to... I don't know why Instagram is still down, and I keep trying to kick through it, and it's annoying.
Good friends in the administration who in good faith want to see this pass, just as you do, just as I do, just as the American people do. They want to see...
No, they don't. It's 25 points underwater. They don't want to see it pass. As a matter of fact, the ones that do want to see it pass only want to see it pass so that Donald Trump can claim victory, not because of what's in it. How fucked up is that? MAGAts want this bill to pass because they don't want Trump to be a loser. Too late.
Yes, move forward legislation to make tax cuts permanent, to...
Then just do that. Jesus.
Deliver on the border funding that we need. Stephen Miller's a longtime friend I've known for 25 years. Russ Vogt is a longtime friend I've known for 25 years. We've been working together in the trenches for as long as
Why would you admit to being longtime friends with Stephen Miller? I mean, I don't know, maybe maybe loans you his coffin to take a nap in at the White House.
I can remember. We all want to deliver. The problem is the swamp is going to swamp.
Yep, swamp's going to swamp.
Right now we have a bill that, in my estimation, violates the House framework, but more importantly, would add significantly to the deficits. Now, we have differing views.
More than it did. More than it did, right?
Yeah, and yeah, keep hammering that. Yes, yeah. It was already going to add to the debt and the deficit. Now it's going to add more to the debt and the deficit. Exactly. And you can't grow your way out of it, dumb fuck. Hammer this, because I got to tell you, them doing this segment, I'm all for it. Explain yourselves, fiscal conservative MAGAt Republicans. Jesus. Hold on one second. That's why. I was like, why is my button not working? Why is it doing the strange thing?
By quite a bit, in my view. And look, there's going to be a debate about this, about tax cuts and revenues and all this stuff. And I get it. It's baselines, CBO, all these different things. I'm just telling you, Glenn, as objectively as I can. I look at the math, and I look at how you factor in economic growth, which I'm doing, factor in revenues and expenditures, and what we're doing on mandatory spending, which is not enough. The fact that we're only repealing half of the Green New Scam, if we're lucky. The fact that we're continuing to allow medic.
Why? What do you mean why? Because it's the only jobs that have been added to red districts since you motherfuckers got in. That's why. If you repeal the entire Green New Scam part of it, which is just, again, stuff from the rescue package and from the CHIPS Act, which Trump is building on what little successes he's had have been stacked on top of that stuff. If you remove them, Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to lose 3,000 jobs in her district. And it won't, and she will be a net negative during her time in Congress. As soon as that happens. That's why. So everybody's like, we're repealing the Green New Scam. And everything but the battery plant in my thing. Make sure you toss something my way.
To go to illegals because of some arcane Senate rules. The fact that we're continuing to allow Obamacare subsidies to fund transgender surgeries.
Yeah, because that'll make a dent in the fucking budget.
The fact that we are going to, in my estimation, have probably a couple of trillion of deficit spending in the first 4 years, which means you're going to have more interest, which means it's going to stack up, all to get savings in the out 5 years.
I thought Doge was going to ride in on this white horse and round up all these savings and drive off those fraudsters, right? I thought Doge was going to provide us with, plenty of cuts, like everywhere you look, right? Remember that was the talk. There's so much fraud and abuse. Oh my God, we'll easily get to the 2 trillion. Well, we'll easily get to the 1 trillion. Well, we'll easily get to 500. Well, we got 140 billion, and it's really just stuff that was necessary. And now people are going to die unnecessarily. Yeah. Brokeback Mountain. Yeah, it is the 25th anniversary of Brokeback Mountain, isn't it? Something like that. Which, by the way, can I just say that when they were, I saw a Heath Ledger interview about Brokeback Mountain, and they said, isn't it brave what you're doing? And he said, I suppose so, but we're just doing in a movie what they do every week on Queer as Folk. And I was like, thank you, Heath Ledger. You're now my hero.
That's not what you and I signed up for. Now,
yeah, it is. You voted for Trump to do whatever the fuck he wants. Shut up. You didn't vote for a president. You voted for a leader and a monarch.
I'm looking at this trying to say, okay, the president wants the tax cuts, so do I. The president wants borders, so do I. I think the president wants us to repeal the entirety of the Green New Scam. I think the president wants us to get good reforms. Be careful, handle Medicaid.
Okay, by the way, this is this is part of the conversation that's going around. This is what our dear friend Philip Ittner, who we keep in our thoughts at all times because of the circumstance he is in. He's in Ukraine right now, and Trump is sort of insisting that he just continually try to get fucking everybody in Ukraine killed for no other reason than he I guess owes Putin a favor, or vice versa, or hopes that he does. I want to look at something. Where's the Higbee dude? Where's this dickhead? Who did I know? Yeah, here it is.
All right, so the big, beautiful bill passes 51-50 with J.D. Vance as the tie-breaking vote after Rand Paul, Tom Tillis, and Susan Collins voted against the bill, requiring a tie-breaking vote, obviously, from the VP. Good
Obviously.
news, it does have some of the fundamental things that Trump noted today.
It's the greatest tax cut in the history of our country.
No, it isn't. It's a continuation of the tax cuts that exist with added tax cuts for billionaires and corporations, and expiring ones. It adds $5,000 a year to poor people because it'll take away SNAP and Medicaid and that kind of stuff, and add those costs to them.
And if it doesn't pass, it's the biggest tax increase in the history of our country.
No, it isn't. It would be a reset to normal.
That alone, 68% increase.
No, it's not a 68% increase. You didn't get a 68% tax cut last time, you weirdo. Like, there's 100% of your income, and if this comes back in, you're going to pay 68% in taxes, right? That's the math he wants maggots to do in their head.
As opposed to a massive cut. It's the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, and everybody gets it.
That is
That's not true.
100% correct.
No, it's not.
This made the Trump tax cuts permanent, and if it had not passed, taxes would have gone up for...
No, it doesn't make them permanent either. It does not make them permanent, because you would need 60 votes to make them permanent. You can extend them to at the end of his term. That's it. They're going to come back up for a vote again. They're not permanent.
68% of Americans, but it's a far cry from what passed the House, or an even further cry from what Trump originally wanted. Look, I love Trump. There's no doubt to my MAGA bona fides, but
I don't know. I question it. I think you've become 100% libtard. I think you and Mamdani should run, Mamdani Higbee 2028.
I want him to be successful.
At what? Pussy grabbing? Probably.
But I think he's being taken advantage of behind the scenes by some people. I think he's being...
If the Tsar only knew. This is what we come to decide. If the Tsar only knew, he would help us. He would not allow this to happen to the people, but he does not know the people around him are not telling him the truths.
being told one thing and they're doing another.
Oh my God! If he could, if only he could read a newspaper, or stand to sit on a phone call for more than 12 minutes, he might actually know what the fuck is going on with his own party.
Very key provisions have been removed, and we're going to get
What?
to those
Oh,
in a second.
dear.
As I said
Not very key provisions.
yesterday, most of these were removed by a Democrat-appointed bureaucrat through a process called the Byrd Rule.
No, they weren't. They need 60 votes to pass. They're not removed. They just can't. They can't go through via reconciliation. You can't sneak shit through. Mr. Law and Order. This would be part of the order part of it, right? This would qualify as actual order. If we're going to have order, we're going to need rules that people all abide by.
What's the Byrd Rule?
Yeah, what's the Byrd Rule? Do you think he's going to get the Byrd Rule right? Oh boy.
Okay. This requires reconciliation bills, which to this is to remain focused on fiscal issues, subjecting non-budgetary provisions to a point of order. 60 votes are required to waive the Byrd Rule, points of order, and then there's 6 rules of the Byrd Rule pillars, I guess you'd call it.
Sure, I would call them that. That's pretty clear. Non-budgetary things, which would be policy stuff, you need 60 votes normally. You would need 60 votes to override the Byrd Rule, obviously, if you want to put it in a reconciliation package on those particular amendments or those parts of it. Of course, it's really about stripping those out and passing them. If you had 60 votes, you could pass them on their own.
Now, what are these 6 rules and their definitions? And I'm only going to read these in full to see how ridiculous this really is. 1.
Oh, okay. Let me explain something too, folks. Carl Higbee thinks these are ridiculous, not because they do something wrong or they're bad, but because he is mentally incapable of processing what they actually mean. Case in point.
It does not produce a change in outlays or revenues unless it is a term or condition of a provision that does produce a change in outlays or revenues.
That would be budgetary stuff, right? Money coming in, money going out. Outlays and revenues. Okay? Revenue would be the money coming in, outlays what you're paying out. It does not produce a change. It can't be in there unless it produces a change in outlays or revenues, unless it is a term or condition of a provision that does produce a change in outlays or revenues. Why is that weird? How is that hard? You can only do budgetary shit through reconciliation, 51 votes for reconciliation, and to make it qualify as budgetary, it has to deal with money coming in and money going out. It can't be a change in overall policy. It can't create new law that way. You can't establish fucking, you can't put the 10 commandments in every place. You can't, erase parts of the fucking Constitution by law via 51 votes, right? That's the rule.
2, it proceeds.
All right, and by the way, that's not even hard to process. God damn, this dude is stupid.
Produces an outlay increase or revenue decrease, and the instructed committee is not in compliance with its instruction.
Okay, you can't do it if it produces an outlay increase or a revenue decrease, right? You can obviously, I guess, increase revenues through something. That would be a normal tax. You can raise taxes, I guess, through 51%, just like you can lower taxes. Or it produces an outlay increase, and the instructed committee is not in compliance with its instructions, meaning that if it applies to, non-discretionary spending, and it's specific to these rules, and they try to play fast and loose by varying the budgetary constraints of what they're doing without passing on a regular 60 vote margin. It's like a subsection of that. There's rules about what qualifies as, outlays and revenue, outlay increases and revenue decreases. If you're going to hand out more money, you got to follow the rules of your committee that apply that to your overall budget that gets scored by the CBO. And if you're going to decrease revenue by actions of what you're doing, then you have to do the same.
Okay. 3, it is outside the jurisdiction of the committee that submitted the title or provision.
Right. Yeah. Why would that be a problem? You're not allowed to add revenue, decrease revenue, add outlays, or decrease outlays for a committee that isn't yours. You can't pass stuff through one committee to raise or lower the budget of another committee because you can't pass it through the committee that it's actually on. So you can't subvert the people in your own party or the other party, I guess, via a committee you have a stranglehold on. It's so stupid.
Whatever that means.
It means exactly what I said it means, and it's not even hard to figure out. Why would the Ways and Means Committee be able to affect any infrastructure committee or whatever, like change the tax and the payments out for roads and bridges if they don't have anything to do with that?
4, it produces a change or outlays or revenues that are merely incidental to the non-budgetary components of the provision. 5, it would...
Right. You can't... The merely incidental part of it is they can be kicked out if they're not directly defined. So you can't sneak something in that doesn't directly undermine the money coming in or directly change the money going out by indirectly changing a rule and not addressing it.
Increase the deficit for a fiscal year beyond those covered by the reconciliation. 6, it violates...
Right. So in this, that's why they have to raise the debt ceiling in it. Because they want to do this by 51%, that's why they have to. That's why it has to follow that. It would increase the deficit for a fiscal year beyond that covered by the reconciliation measure. So that's why they're adding this $5 trillion raise in the debt ceiling.
Section 3.
And that increase is greater than savings from the other provisions in the title that year, which means it would increase the debt ceiling. If it increases it at all, the deficit in that, and it doesn't make up for it in the same fiscal year, say beginning of the year to end of the year, something like that, you can't sneak it around and go, oh yeah, no, we'll make up some of it in the end of the year. We're not quite sure how much. You have to define it. If you're going to raise the debt ceiling for it, you got to define how much the full amount. You can't just go, oh, actually, we meant just put a pin in that and we'll raise the debt ceiling as we go. That way you could just keep raising the outlay in committee or on the floor over time and not have to re-answer it. Never have to bring it and explain it.
310G of this.
If it violates Section 310G of the CBA, which prohibits recommendations to a reconciliation bill regarding Social Security, retirement, and disability insurance, right? Because you can't. That's why they're doing Medicare and Medicaid in this, and why they're affecting people with disabilities through their Medicaid. For the record, it's that's off the table in reconciliation. You have to pass it by 60 votes to do something like that. Otherwise, they would have bankrupted Social Security, 2 decades ago.
CBA, which prohibits recommendations to a reconciliation bill regarding Social Security, retirement, and disability insurance.
That's not even hard, dude. It's not hard. Don't fucking. It's not. This is exactly what it's supposed to do, dipshit. Budget reconciliation is called budget reconciliation for that very reason. It has to do with the budget. Money coming in, money going out. And there are strict rules about whether you're going to raise the amount of money going out or lower the amount of money coming in, because it will affect how much debt you have to take on in your budget. And if it doesn't do those things, if it's about a change in legal policy, gay marriage, something like that is not going to affect the financial well-being of the country or the debt that the government has to take on or the taxes it has to take in or the outlay of funds it has to do. If it doesn't do with that, you need 60 votes to do it because it has to do with the social structure of the country. It doesn't belong in this. You can't just 51 vote, and yo-yo everybody's rights back and forth.
You could see how a partisan pencil pusher or a politician might be able to convince someone about this or that or anything could violate any portion because it's so broadly written.
It's not broadly written at all. It's very narrowly written. That's why the last part of it literally cites a particular clause dealing with Social Security and disability insurance. God damn, this dude is dumb. Look, it is no one's fault these motherfuckers can't read. Jesus. Oh, we'll get to that, DB Golding. Fear not. That's next up.
In language that nobody can read except for like a 50-year practicing lawyer.
No. You don't need to be a 50-year practicing lawyer, you dumb motherfucker. Boebert understands what this means. I guarantee it. And she's a dipshit. She may not like it, but she understands what it means. I assume.
That's what politicians do, though, I guess. Twist things.
Fuck you. There's nothing twisted about it. It's a rule.
And they did. Under the guise of procedural garbage, some of...
Is that what they did? That they call it procedural garbage?
Trump's most ardent agenda items were completely...
The ardent agenda items? Oh, no. All of the items or just some of the items?
Stripped or remanded to a 60-vote majority in order to be included. This pre-voting process is called the Byrd Bath, where Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, who I told you about yesterday,
who is clearly a woman, and that's part of the problem,
goes around chopping stuff under the guise of procedure.
Well, everybody could disagree with her under that procedure if they had clear reason to show that it doesn't fall under those things. She'd go, oh, okay. There's a lot of awful shit that I'm sure as a person, as a human being, she would love to cut from this shit, but she can't because it fits within the rules. And if they can pass it with 51 votes, they get to have it. Dumb.
So what was cut? We told you yesterday about might be cut, but now it's on the record.
Oh, no.
Look, on 2A Tuesday, I'm almost a single-issue voter on gun rights, and one of the key provisions that passed the House that tipped me over onto supporting this bill was the removal of suppressors and short-barreled rifles from the National Firearms Act.
Right, which is not budgetary. Has nothing to do with money coming in, money going out, dumb fuck. Nothing at all. It's a policy change, and you got to convince more people than that because, and I got news for you, motherfucker. If you guys actually had a mandate, that wouldn't be a problem. But you don't. The biggest news out of all of this thing, the biggest news about this bill, and the thing I wish people would hammer the most is, we hear all the time from the Republicans how Donald Trump and everybody here has a mandate from the people. There's a mandate. Well, if there was a mandate, you'd have enough people in both chambers to just automatically pass your stuff. You wouldn't need the VP to split the baby. So shut the fuck up and play with everybody else, because you have not earned a mandate. And you could say we haven't either, but we don't shy away from the work.
Nope.
Oh, why are we watching Newsmax? We're watching Newsmax because these guys are all on Team Trump, and this guy is shitting all over the bill in its current form that is in the House.
Gifford organization, the anti-gun grabbing Gabby Gifford's gun group, applauding it, saying, today the Senate parliamentarian ruled that the provision of the big beautiful bill to remove safeguards that prevent gun silencers, which that's not what they are, and short-barreled... You're
right, they don't silence them, they suppress the sound. They're not silencers, they're suppressors. Listen, fucko, they're designed simply so you can kill people in secret. So you can hide the fact that you've murdered someone. Shut the fuck up. And there is no situation in self-defense where like I got to protect myself. It's self-defense. My life is on the line, but I don't want to wake up the cat. Like, shut the fuck up.
Firearms, short-barreled rifles, from ending up in the wrong hands must be taken out of the bill. Whatever. Look, I don't understand how a 200...
You don't understand words in their natural form, in proper syntax, fucko.
$100 tax stamp doesn't apply with the Byrd Rule because it isn't budgetary. Next one, and this is huge. We got all these tax cuts, which are fantastic for the American people. They really are. But there's not a lot of them to offset them. Okay? Some of the things that were there, again...
There's not a lot of cuts to offset them, is what he means. They're not paid for.
Kicked off under the Byrd Rule that was banning illegal...
Thank you, Jerry.
...illegals from Medicare...
Slava Ukraine. And thank you, Seattle. Don't forget that much of the cutting will happen after the 2026 elections. Yes, well, they're bearing the tail end of the costs in the back end of the 10-year cycle.
Eligibility, specifically certain classes of migrants that might actually be here in a temporary status, which had 54 votes, but not the 60. Here, from the New York Times. The Senate parliamentarian determined that this provision does not comply with the chamber's rules, and it may be removed or modified. I'm sorry, we have laws that say you can't be here illegally, but we're not allowed.
Yeah, this isn't for illegal immigrants. These are people who are here under asylum, or they are seeking asylum and they're awaiting their trial date and the like, and they can't have a work visa, so Medicaid would cover that, or they're in between being picked up and sent out, and we would use Medicaid as the process for treating them if we don't have, I guess, physicians in a fucking hospital built into Alligator Alcatraz, right?
To pass a law that doesn't allow those illegal people or people on temporary status to receive my tax dollars? I mean, seriously?
Yeah, seriously. We do not have a thing where you can just let somebody bleed to death on the street. And because doctors have to treat people, somebody's got to pay those doctors. We're not giving money to those folks. We are providing the doctors that provide care with them money to eat and buy fucking clothing, you weirdo.
But this goes in the same vein as something that nearly every Democrat objected to in this bill, which was that they're hiring 10,000 more ICE agents, which is weird because they called that fiscally irresponsible, but had zero problem hiring 87,000 IRS agents to persecute actual tax-paying citizens.
Well, no, actually, you'd need those folks to go after the Enrons of the world, because that's where it gets complicated. It isn't really hard to go after the average person. Yeah, IRS has been able to do that for years, but when you're dealing with like the subtle credit default swap shenanigans and fraud that big corporations do, you need more people to do it.
Same thing with private school.
But Carl is dumb.
School vouchers. She nixed that too. That was...
Yeah, why would school vouchers be a part of this? School choice is local.
Huge for people like me who hate the public school system.
Well, you're a product of it, so obviously strike one.
As it has become.
As it has become. Uh-huh. It was fine when I was in there, but now...
Ban on federal funding for child sex change surgeries. Apparently you can't do that either, which is weird because the Supreme Court just gave parents the right to opt out of the educational side of that.
Right, that's part of the free speech aspect of this. You don't need a law to do that. It's inherently in the Constitution. Same thing here. This is not about ban the use of Medicaid funds for gender-affirming medical care for transgender minors and adults. The Senate parliamentarian determined that this provision does not comply with the Chamber's rules, and it may be removed or modified. Now, they could modify it. They could do that. But the problem is you haven't made a distinction in the gender-affirming medical care where if something goes south and they're on Medicaid and you need to treat them because they had top surgery or bottom surgery or something like that, and they got an infection or whatever, they could be denied care or driven into bankruptcy because Medicaid wouldn't cover that part of it because it's so slipshod. If you were more specific, maybe.
All this stuff stripped out that passed the House. Ban on courts punishing...
Thank you, Joseph.
Punishing Trump officials for contempt. Nix the sell-off of post office electric vehicles. Apparently we can't do that. We have to charge a fee for unions to use federal buildings. It sounds an awful lot like a budgetary issue to that. Can't cut.
Hold on. This one was back up. The provision would have required unions to pay the entire cost of official time for union representatives, including salary and benefits, plus all union office space and resources. Unions that cannot pay would be debarred. At the urging of the AFG, the Senate parliamentarian earlier ruled that most of these provisions violated the Byrd Rule. Yeah, because a union would have to be a well-to-do union, so no new unions would be able to compete. Against their, put together when only the older unions that maybe already have enough funds to carry this out could like rent one of these places or get together for meetings, whereas the smaller ones couldn't afford to do it. You kind of zero them out and make it impossible for them to form.
Buildings. It sounds an awful lot like a budgetary issue to that. Can't cut EPA mandates either. Can't.
But it isn't, though, because it's not necessary to the function of the unions. It's a fee that you're charging for, like, you'd have to, by the way, I'll tell you why. Here you go. Exactly why. The provision would have required unions to pay the entire cost of the official time for union representatives. So it isn't about renting the space. It's that during the time they're in there, they would have to pay a certain part of the salary, including and benefits for the usage of during their work in those places instead of meeting after work or whatever. The idea that they could have that they've even established who's in charge of the union in an early one is just stupid. What this means is the reason it wouldn't fit in there is because the Senate can determine what money comes in and out of the government, but it cannot define the rules for money you have to spend. Does that make sense? Let me just simplify it overall. The budgetary rule is what the government spends and what the government takes in, but they cannot set a rule that says you have to pay that person to do this. To use this space, you have to pay this to do. If you can pass a law like that, but it takes 60 votes. Okay.
A budget,
because it's not budget reconciliation.
Issue to that.
That's because you're stupid.
Can't cut EPA mandates either.
Nope. Senate parliamentarian ruled rolling back the EPA rules would need 60 votes to pass in the 100-seat chamber, rather than the simple majority of the other elements of the tax and spending package. We need under complex budget process for Republicans are invoking to bypass Democratic. Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's a change in policy. You need 60 votes for that.
Can't pass.
That, or people could filibuster it. You can't filibuster the budget reconciliation process. If you want to avoid the filibuster, the rules are this. If you want to open it up and say we think it should all apply, then you also have to deal with the filibuster. That's why.
Voter ID because a non-elected person said so. Funding for sanctuary cities? No.
Non-elected?
Nope.
You mean like everybody who works at Doge?
According to the American Prospect, limitations on grant funding for sanctuary cities out.
Right. Yeah, because it's a policy difference, not an actual like grant process. Like you can't like cut off New York because you don't like a policy of theirs. That's a policy decision. Even if whether the grants are for highways, roads, the national security stuff, right? Okay.
No tax on tips. After a bit of debate, it did make it onto page 274. Now,
but
I don't understand
most things.
Democrats even stole this policy. It passed the Senate unanimously as a standalone bill. Unanimously. The House never took it up, but they did put it in the BBB. And now the Senate will say there's no tax on tips, but only up to $25,000, which if you make a living as a waitress, you're often making minimum wage, or in some states far less, because you survive almost 100% on your tips. Average waitress at the moderately nice restaurant down the street, 15 to 20 tables a night. Average bill, call it $150, $25 to $30 tip times 20. That could be $600 a night. You could reach that $25,000 limit in 2 to 3 months. Also, the taxes on 25 grand would only be like 2 or 3 grand.
Also, most of the time you split that with everybody.
If you're in that tax bracket. I mean, this sounds nice, but it's not what was promised.
Yeah, I mean, that's the defining phrase of Trump's presidency, dummy.
All these senators told us no tax on tips.
Well, some
tax on tips.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of tax on tips. Yeah.
This had to be changed because
Because you're stupid?
Unelected woman.
Unelected woman? No, because of the rule. If it doesn't qualify, anybody in the Senate could have gone, yes, it does. You don't think you don't think all the MAGAts on there that wanted that shit in there couldn't have gotten it back in? They would have, like, they're afraid to buck the parliamentarian? The reason it got kicked out is because the House put it in, and they don't have a similar rule. The Senate has this rule. So if you want to pass it, if you want to go from the House to the Senate, back to the House, and to the President, it's got to follow the rules of both chambers. You can't just make up your own rules and pass them on to the Senate. That's how it works.
She just cost the mother trying to support her kids thousands of dollars a year. Great job, lady.
Yeah, that was her goal.
You see how insane all this is.
It's crazy.
Look, I am out on this bill as the Senate passed it. I am. Sorry, not sorry. Like I said, love you, Donald Trump, but I think you're being misled on the new perverted
If this are only new
product of what you just
stand by your czar
saw get passed out of the Senate, and especially what you intended this to be. This was noted by a guest on Ron Paul's podcast.
No shit.
How the House and even Trump is getting fleeced by some woman that no one elected.
And if they'd only been able to take the mandate and pass the shit on its own, they wouldn't have to shove things into a big budget bill and face the budget reconciliation rules.
What they did is all of the carrots that the leadership put in on the Republican House, on the House version of the bill to appease conservatives were ripped out by the Senate.
Aww.
We got you, we suckered you into voting for it, and they were ripped out.
And then the...
Oh, wait, hold on. Fuck that. Carrots? I thought the sticks were pulled out. Right? Oh, the Hellwalker, thank you. Right? They're not cutting enough spending. That's the stick part. Never mind. Like the analogies matter. These fuckers don't even understand the language they're supposed to use for the actual bills themselves. I'm asking them to understand simple colloquialisms and analogies.
Senate, instead of firing or even
Jesus is fucking stupid.
Ruling her, voted on it. Sure, we...
Like these assholes. It's like, none of them know? Thanks, Carl. Do you have any of them on a fucking, on speed dial? Do you know any senators? Call them up and ask them, and they'll go, fuck are you talking about, Carl? Shut the fuck up, we're busy.
Got all these tax cuts, which, look, again, super great, okay? But not many not many things to add money back to the budget. The government...
You mean cuts? Not enough cuts? Ladies and gentlemen, brain farts are a terrible thing. That's why it's important to take Shartbrand. A once-a-week injection into your cranium will help you with brain farts, especially the greasy kind. Right, Carl?
It gets less revenue. Still has to pay for illegals. Has to spend more money on a ton of things, including defense, and raises the debt ceiling, which by...
What? What? Whose idea was that? Oh, Trump's.
By the way, what's the point of having a debt ceiling if you can just raise it? If you're...
Well, I guess it requires air quotes then, right? It's just the debt ceiling. Because it has to do with the spending that you've allocated for the last little thing, and if you have to add more to the debt, you raise the ceiling on it for the incoming debt, but the debt for that year can't go beyond this point. Fuck me.
Toilet is overflowing and filling up your house. Do you raise the ceiling, or do you fix the toilet and pump the crap out?
Apparently, according to, if I'm following your analogy, you put all the crap in a barrel and you bury poor people and children in it. Yeah, I think that's how I go.
I also
Thanks, Sylvia.
find it disturbing that we had multiple people working on this today, reading
You did?
through whatever was available, and we had no access to this bill in its entirety with adequate time to read it among 6 people, which means
Sorry, there are only 6 people working at Newsmax?
neither did senators.
Dun,
If the
dun,
Senate's version
dun.
of this stays in place as is, apparently all we can do is just spend money. We're not allowed to stop spending any.
Yeah. Why won't they let us be?
So now it's on to the House. And what happens next? What options they have? Not many.
Dum 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 stupid dum silly stupid dum dum.
Jesus. Look, I gotta say, it can be challenging to cover the news on the regular because stuff will come out. Stuff will come up. Stuff will, occur in the world that's just not on your current radar. Maybe you could do a little bit of a catch up over, a short period of time, but it might be so complex that trying to form a genuine opinion will take you a couple days. You might have to fucking go outside on the patio and consider, it's gonna be crazy, what you've read and seen and go, how does all of this information fit into what I believe? And does it contradict anything that I've been saying, or do I believe? And then after a period of time, you might come to a mature, I'm fucking around, he doesn't care. But it can be difficult. It can. Because there are stories that are just outside most people's transom. Even I, and I know you're shocked, but even I, there's occasionally a story that will come along and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And you know what I do though? I go look it up and I study it. And I spend a couple of days often where I'm just going over that issue from a bunch of different angles so that I can draw my own legit conclusions from what's going on, right? From the information that's available, I can see the preconceptions that people have. I can understand where people are making mistakes or what parts might sound wrong but are right or sound right but are wrong, right? That's what you do, right? If you're confronted with this, you don't just tap out, right? God damn, these guys are stupid. But anyways, the upside is this asshole, amongst a bunch of other people, is attacking Trump's bill. Now, here's another example. Whoops, what the fuck is that? Get out of here. There we go, theater mode. This is, remember Rob Shit? He's another one of these dickheads over at Newsmax. Narrow victory. Yay 51, nay 50. Rob Shit. Not Trump's fault the bill isn't better. Yes, it is. Fish stinks from the head. Fish rots from the head. Fish heads... Fish head soup sucks. Yes, it is. It's his fault. It's his bill. He's insisting on it. He named it the big, beautiful bill. Fuck him. He's in charge. He runs his party, with an iron fisting. Yeah. So Rob Shit, yes, it is Trump's fault. But this is, it's not Trump's fault. The bill isn't better.
Trump's big, beautiful bill limping across the Senate finish line earlier today. It took J.D. Vance to break a 50-50 tie after 3 Republican defections. Tom Tillis and Susan Collins voting no because the bill doesn't spend enough. Rand Paul because it spends too much. And for all the shame that Rand...
And so, conceivably, you would be on one side of that or the other.
Paul has taken...
I should have maggots call in and debate them. There are people that do that where they just take calls, and a lot of times it ends up being a circle jerk. I'd rather do it face to face on video because when it's audio, it I don't know, like Tom Hartman used to do that. Let people like who are calling in on the right, they'd go to the front of the line if they wanted to debate or say something pro-Trump or whatever, and he would let them talk first. And I guess it's good conflict porn, but it's not going to resolve through that. I would rather debate these actual people live someplace and film it. That's what I'm working on.
Not wrong. For fiscal hawks, the bill could have been better, but at the same time...
Okay, so he's on the side of Rand Paul. He agrees with Rand Paul, not, that voting for it, not voting for it because it spends too much is a reasonable argument. Okay.
At some point, the most...
Testing the Super Chat gold counter. Thank you, Stacy. We're close. We're at 11 out of 20. We got time, though.
Virtuous conservatives do need to kind of get real with the situation in Washington. The fact that Congress does have a uniparty.
No, it doesn't. If it had a uniparty, you wouldn't have Republican defections, dumb fuck.
And that uniparty is a super majority in Congress.
No, it's not. Democracy requires people to compromise. That doesn't mean there's a fucking cabal.
And that uniparty doesn't care about...
Jesus, this is the same shit like Rusty Trombone and Jimmy Dore and fucking Cenk and all these assholes. There's no uniparty, you dumb motherfuckers. There's democracy. And everybody has to participate in it. So your complaints about some sort of uniparty where everybody's working together in this is because that's what's required. Catherine, look out.
Deficits and debt, and simply won't be deterred in its quest to grow government like a malignant tumor. That is the reality of Washington.
Sorry. If that's what they're doing, if they're growing the government like a malignant tumor, then you're on the side of Rand Paul. Therefore, everyone should have voted his way. And the uniparty stuff that you're saying, you're against the fucking bill, Rob Shit. You're against it. You should, if you believe anything you just said, obviously you don't want this bill to pass, dipshit.
It's not Trump's fault this bill isn't better. It's not Rand Paul's fault or any Republican.
It's the rest of the Republican Party that put it together?
It's a greater fault, and that is Congress. The vice president posted...
No, I thought you fuckers had a mandate.
Today, I've seen many criticisms...
Thank you, Capable Globert. Thank you, Frida.
...of this bill, and most of them fail a very basic test. Could those criticisms get 50 votes? As the president told me earlier today, for a good idea to become policy, it has to have the votes. Without the votes, it's a useless idea on a piece of paper. And here's Rand Paul with some of those criticisms.
Right. And it didn't have the votes, so this asshole had to come in and break a tie.
Right now.
In deciding whether to vote for the big, not so beautiful bill, I've asked a very specific question.
What the fuck is that on your head? Is that the question?
Oh, nice Mormon. Will the deficit be more or less next year? The answer, without question, is this bill will grow the deficit. To me, the most pertinent question is how will the bill affect the deficit in the next year? The deficit in 2026 will still be $270 billion more than this year.
Yeah, it's going to go up.
So we've been hearing that from Rand Paul.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know what that means, but let me tighten it up for Rob Shit and Higbee and all the dipshits over at Newsmax. You know what it means? You know what? Boil this down for you. It means that Doge was full of shit, and so is Trump. That's what it means. That's what's happening. And even worse, you're full of shit for buying it.
For a few weeks now, he said it on this show. He's not wrong from what we can see, although the...
Well, if he's not wrong, then why the fuck should anybody vote for it?
The White House does contend that explosive GDP growth, which Trump does bring...
We just lost 33,000 jobs, dummy.
...will chip away at whatever deficits are created. Bigger growth, if you raise GDP by a point, you get like $1 trillion more, right?
Right. And from that $1 trillion, you get, what, 8% of it for revenue? Is that enough to cover this? Nope.
But regardless, this big bill is spendy enough to make debt-obsessed fiscal hawks cringe. That has been the problem for the last few weeks.
Yeah, for a few weeks. It wasn't the fact that Republicans ran on this and said that we were enslaving future generations.
That doesn't make it a bad bill, though. It
kind of does, doesn't it?
Trim as Rand Paul's colleagues will allow it to be.
I see. So they owe Rand Paul an apology, and he should have voted for it because because Republicans are that terrible.
So tight that John Thune had to give set-asides to fake Republican Lisa Murkowski.
He did? Why? Why do you have to give her set-asides? Oh, you mean he had to get rid of Medicaid in a bunch of red states, but patch hers up so that she wouldn't have to, she wouldn't have to tell her constituents the bad news?
And we needed the vice president to come over to break the tie and pass it.
Yep, nothing says mandate like the VP having to break a tie.
That's how tight this was. They got it as good as they could get.
Tight?
To get it through. You remember how much Trump hates the government, right? He's been in the private sector his whole life.
No. He's not hate the government. Fuck off. He hates taxes. He hates having to pretend to give a shit about his country.
Do you really think he wanted this to be a budget buster?
Yes. That's why he threatened to primary Chip Roy over the debt ceiling in fucking December, asshole.
You think he wants to just explode more deficits, create more?
Yes. Yes. Because he's gonna he wants to gun the engine the entire time he's in, and if it burns the cylinders out after he's gone, who gives a shit? Not his problem anymore.
Inflation, do you think that's his agenda?
Yes, I do. Of course it is. He was king of debt, remember that? Ask the people who went to Trump University, or ask fucking anybody who ate a Trump steak who's still fucking alive.
You've known him for 9 years.
I have not. And again, he knew Epstein for 25. I guess you're saying that if you know somebody for 9 years, you should really know them. So how could Trump know Epstein for 25 and not? Weird.
It's the only option on the table. It's this, what passed today, or his agenda. His entire agenda fails.
Why? Why does his entire agenda fail? Why couldn't you just pass the tax cut through reconciliation and then create actual budget savings by paying attention to stuff? And if it's going to take 10 years to see the arc of the savings anyways, why not spend a year just going through everything with a fine-tooth comb and getting rid of all that waste, fraud, and abuse that's there, right?
Those are the options.
No, I mean, both Biden was already headed towards balancing his deficit, which over time would have headed to a balanced budget, right?
At the end of the day, the bill funds deportations, it funds the wall's completion.
Why would you need that? I thought you didn't need a bill. You just needed a new president for the deportations and the border. Remember that? Remember Trump saying that? Biden was saying we need to pass a piece of legislation about this. And you're like, we don't have to pass a legislation. We just need a new president. Remember that? I guess fucking not, right? I guess you do need to pass a fucking bill. I guess you do need to pay all the people you're sending to the border to stand there and stand guard on it day in and fucking day out. So you can crow the fucking numbers. Right? Oy. Trump has been a politician and campaigning for 15 years. You're right. It was always soft before, before he ran in 2016. He was more like a gadfly, political gadfly.
It keeps taxes low and drops some taxes even lower. And
yes, for people who don't need their taxes to go down.
Republicans say it is going to cut waste in government.
Oh, if they say that, shit, why didn't you tell me that? They say it's going to cut waste? Where?
Which, of course, is why Democrats are so furious.
Why would I be furious? Because they... Oh, you're right. I'm furious as a Democrat because they say that and they don't. Because they say that and it doesn't actually do that. Or that they consider children with disabilities to be waste. That's a good reason to get angry, I think, right?
This is a tragedy of a bill, a shameful bill, a selfish bill.
So this is a very bad day for the United States Senate. It's a very bad day for the country.
This bill, it's bad. It's bad economically. It's bad morally.
I am shaking with fury over what just happened. That's the most monstrous piece of legislation I've ever voted on in my time in Congress.
Because of this bill, tens of millions will lose health insurance.
Yeah, and Rob Schmidt can't figure out why you'd be upset about something like that. Why would anybody be shaking with fury that tens of millions of people will lose their health insurance or may die because of it? Why would that upset anyone, right, Rob? I mean, if they were Christian, I think in theory that
millions of jobs will disappear. People will get sick and die.
If the goons that have destroyed the value of your paycheck and the value of your dollar are angry about this bill,
the value of your dollar, it's been over $1 the entire time Biden was in office. It's crashing now, stupid.
It's probably a good thing. Senator Ron Johnson was one of the fiscal hawks out there, much like Chip Roy and Rand Paul and Tom.
Who gives a shit? He voted for it.
Massey, working to make the bill better.
And he didn't. So, and apparently, according to you, asshole, he failed. It's not Trump's fault this bill isn't better. It's Ron Johnson's, who is incompetent, I guess.
Here's his take on it. By passing the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, we have avoided a $4 trillion automatic tax increase and a default on our debt. Due to the enormous
That's the raising of the debt ceiling.
messes Biden and congressional Democrats left us, we are also providing additional funding for border security and defense. While the bill is a step forward, we have only just begun the difficult process of reducing spending, and there is still a long way to go. And
what are you talking about? You're not going to, asshole. They're not going to. There is no situation where they're gonna reduce. There's no second bill in the waiting to get passed via 60 votes or whatever that's gonna cut funding or cut programs. Yeah, funding is going up. There is no process to reduce spending. It isn't in this, and it's not going to be in another piece of legislation. They're not going to follow this up with even more cuts. Are you fucking insane? That's why they're raising the debt ceiling, so Trump doesn't have to, so he can rule his fucking Santa Claus and flood the engine.
There you have it. This isn't good enough, but it's moving in the right direction.
How?
We've been through hell.
Pragmatic take from fiscal hawk. Who? You? Or Ron Johnson?
For the last 4 years, and you have to spend a lot.
Jesus Christ. Thank you, Jenny Faye. It's Paul Thanos.
A lot of money to get out of hell. And then there was this moment. After Republicans seemed to bend over backwards to woo one of the worst senators in the country, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski.
Why don't you say that the rest of the time? Oh, right, because a Democrat could get that seat and, to keep your fucking trap shut.
Murkowski finally voted for a bill that she later said she hated, right after she voted for it. Now, she was worried.
Yeah, what do you care? Dude, we've already established what they say means nothing.
Worried about food stamps, of all things. Yes, a Republican. And held the bill hostage until
It's Alaska, motherfucker.
She got her way. An aide for Rand Paul saying tonight, instead of making the same decision to cut spending and do what the American people want, they found it easier to throw money into Alaska.
Yeah, art at the deal. I don't know what to tell you. Fuck you, lower 48 red states.
To get the bill across. And however that negotiation went, they thought this is the easiest way to get this thing done.
Uh-huh.
And maybe if they went Rand's direction, they would have lost more votes and it wouldn't have.
Right. But they would have actually had integrity and done what they ran on. But I mean, fuck that. What are you, nuts?
Worked. So not sure that's a fair criticism.
Thank you, Mooney.
Of it, but that's what
you
went
did
down
it
today. They basically had to grease Murkowski to get it through. Collins said no. Murkowski finally came around and said yes, and then said she hated it. An NBC reporter today asked Lisa Murkowski about that comment from Rand Paul. And this moment is wild. Take a look.
Senator Paul said that that your vote was a bailout for Alaska at the expense of the rest of the country.
Oh my God.
That's what Senator Paul said.
My question was easy. Senator, we've got the...
I didn't say it, ma'am. I'm just asking for your response.
My response is I have an obligation to the people of the state of Alaska.
And not America. Don't be stupid.
And I live up to that every single day.
Right. At the expense of the rest of the country. Yeah, it's super weird. Like, I don't know if she thought she could stare the guy down or she just blanked for a second and was trying to remember what the question was.
Have you seen a weirder moment than that?
Yes. Anytime Ted Cruz speaks.
Rand Paul called her out, and she had to stare at that reporter for 10 seconds.
So she's on your team. I give a shit.
And feign outrage and offense to try and figure out a way to wiggle out of it. That's exactly what she did.
Asshole, you're arguing that Rand Paul was wrong and she did the right thing by voting for this. What the fuck are you talking about? This is the weirdest part of this. He's attacking Lisa Murkowski for being a hypocrite and voting for the bill even though she said it was terrible, but they got her fucking vote. And his argument is they should all voted for it. There's no reason you're not going to get a perfect bill, so vote for it and shut the fuck up. Meanwhile, Rand Paul stood on principle, voted against it, and this asshole is touting him while saying he did the wrong thing. And you know why he doesn't give a shit? Because they had her vote. The reason the VP could cast the deciding vote was because she voted for it, dumb fuck. If she had joined Rand Paul and stuck to her guns and actually did what she said she believed about the bill, it wouldn't have passed, dummy. What the fuck? I don't even know what side of this fucking thing he's on, and yet he's sort of like, he's going to throw his shoulder out, patting himself on the back for being on the right side of history.
Claiming she was offended, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins are a huge part of the problem and are a big part of the reason why this catastrophic trend in Washington of
women is what he means. Women in office. Women.
30% more than we make every year won't stop, won't end. Why your kids' futures are being mortgaged to pay for the food stamps and Medicaid programs of today. Ask Collins and Murkowski, the fake Republicans.
Yeah, why don't we just starve those kids now rather than finance their saving their lives currently and pay it off later in installments? Just let them die. That's the point from Newsmax. That's Rob shit for everybody. Why are we leveraging this? Why are we paying for food stamps for starving kids right now when they'll, none of them are going to grow up to be anything. They're from poor people. Jesus Christ. And she voted against it. She voted for it. This motherfucker is only picking them because they're women.
That really shore up that nasty uniparty that will never, ever let this country spend anywhere close to what it brings in ever again, at least by our estimation.
I'm sorry. I thought Trump was going to break the uniparty and drain the fucking swamp. This is his signature piece of legislation, motherfucker, and I got news for you. This would not have been the signature legislation of the Democratic Party. If Biden or Harris was president right now, the tax cuts would fucking expire. And the debt that we accumulate because of it would have gone down. We also wouldn't be in a tariff pissing contest with the rest of the world, driving costs for consumers up at the same time. God damn, these people are fucking stupid. It's brutal. Jesus. They're all hired on that same kind of premise. Now, I wanted to see this. Where is it? First of all, I thought this was funny. And we'll look at the Trump went down and spoke at the Alligator Alcatraz. It already started flooding. The center had standing water on its first day of operation. Florida officials claim the facility, situated in the middle of the muggy, naturally flooded Everglades, is sturdy enough to withstand winds of Category 2 hurricane, despite its exterior being a tent. These claims are sure to be scrutinized. When Delgado Spectrum News 13 captured footage of water seeping into the tent onto electrical cables and around flagpoles. That would be this right here. There's the water coming in the door. That's the, hold on. And then this is, that's while they're there. This is during the time they're there. So this is, look, that's DeSantis and that crowd. That's when they're giving the tour. It was raining outside. Look at that shit. There's the standing water. That's the electric cables. Fucking hell, these people are stupid. And it's the fucking Everglades, dummy. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen all the time. Yeah, it's a tent. These are all tents. They're talking about them like they're structures. They're just fucking tents. Intensities in 10 cities, right? Jesus Christ. Now, if I may, let me cut this out. And we got this. I'm trying to find that Maria Mahama. I think it was on, let's do this earlier, when she flipped out because she went through it. When they released the numbers, the job numbers this morning, the expectation was that they were going to add 93,000 jobs. That was the story that was being told. Let's see. I'm going to find it. Where is she? Yeah, here you go. Blink. I'll open this one up. And then Maria Mahama. I'm trying to dig up. There we go. Where are you, lady? Maria Bahama. Oh, I think it was on, my bad. I think it was on The Beast. 1 second. The Beast. Mm-hmm. Where is it? I'm looking it up right now. Yay! Do we have CSL? Maybe I missed it. Do we have the Maria Bartiromo jobs report? Let's see. I know that because there's a clip of it that's pretty spectacular because she was on the air when it happened. It might be on Shitter. Mm-hmm. Looking it up. Give me 1 second. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Maria, 33 jobs. There we go. Yeah, there it is. So Maria Bartiromo, this is a miss of 128,000. Let's see if we can do this with the actual video. Dink. There you go. Yeah, here it is. This is it. Hold on. See if I can
Any moment now to get the jobs numbers for the month of May. The expectations call for the ADP numbers to be up 95,000 for the month of June, rather. It's the June jobs.
Yeah, June. Woo! It's going to be June.
Now, seeing the number actually show a decline in jobs, down 33,000 on ADP.
This dude looks like they just, right as she says that, it's like somebody shoved a lemon slice up his ass.
The bill includes $25 billion for the Golden Dome, the missile defense system. Senator, you introduced a bill supporting the construction of that system.
Just fucking, yeah, I know it was in their CSL. I just, I didn't scroll back and find it, but this is, we lost 33,000 jobs in the month of June.
On defense and whether
She's just jumping, she's like leaving that. We used to have the joy of watching Maria Bartiromo, when the numbers would come in and Biden's job numbers were great and she'd be watching her deflate when that happened. There is a direct parallel that's very exciting. It's a very exciting parallel, which is her watching her tout Trump's numbers and watching them shit the bed. Here it is once again, if we may. Get back in here.
Both in the economy, we are waiting any moment now to get the jobs numbers for the month of May. The expectations call for the ADP numbers to be up 95,000 for the month of June.
Which, by the way, is already shit, just for the record. That's not a lot.
Rather, it's the June jobs data, and we'll, of course, right now seeing...
They were talking about the 98,000 would be evidence of a slowdown.
Seeing the number actually show a decline in jobs, down 30.
Did you see his face when that happened? Watch it one more time. Watch her say it. He's already kind of ecstatic.
Actually show a decline in jobs, down 33,000 on ADP. The bill includes $25 billion for the Golden Dome, the missile defense system. Senator, you introduced a bill of June, rather. It's the June jobs data, and we'll, of course, right now seeing the number actually show a decline in jobs, down 33,000 on ADP. The bill includes $25 billion for the Golden Dome, the missile of June, rather. It's the June jobs data, and we'll, of course, right now seeing the number actually show a decline in jobs, down 33,000
it's painful.
on ADP of June, rather. It's the June.
Yeah. So that happened, and it's pretty indicative overall of the direction things are headed. And it's also right around the time where they can't just like lay off the stuff, that it was Biden's issue. It was Biden's, these are all, Biden's part of Biden's the negative part of the economy, Trump's the positive side. Like that's what he's been selling. Doesn't work. Especially, okay, let's see. This is, there you go. I'm going to try the latest on the big ugly bill. Alligator Auschwitz is part of this thing. Vote hell no. Peter, thank you so much. Thanks for being you. Thanks for being you. Yeah, and let's see. I'm picking this up before we flip over. Okay, so here's the other story is Alligator Alcatraz. That's right. We'll look at it. This is the 5. Trump attends the opening of Alligator Auschwitz and the tent in the Everglades that's already leaking water across electrical cables. Great for staff and the safety of the people there, wouldn't you say?
All right, so we're going to move on with our topics that we had for today. Other really important news. President Trump wasn't holding back during his tour of Alligator Alcatraz. The reptile-infested ICE detention center deep in the Florida Everglades is officially opens tomorrow, and it's
officially opens tomorrow?
Room for 3,000 of the worst of the worst.
So we're putting the worst of the worst in tents. In a tent. Worst of the worst. Is that it? You're going to put them in tents.
They say violent criminal migrants. We're taking child predators. We're talking child predators, rapists, and fentanyl traffickers.
Right, and you're going to put them in tents where they will, I don't know, maybe they could sharpen a toothbrush and cut their way out of it.
They'll be up
One of the things about Alcatraz, say what you will, but the walls were fucking concrete.
against the alligators and pythons. Here's what the president had to say.
It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. This facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet.
Right, but it's obviously visible from regular satellite imagery, so I don't know, murderers who have friends on the outside could probably find their way to getting a boat or something and then pick them up.
We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland and the...
Right, so you just get one of those big fucking fan boats and some dude can coyote everybody out of there because you've got, like, you know, top-level murderers and rapists in tents.
The only way out is really deportation. We took the FEMA money that Joe Biden allocated to pay for the free luxury hotel rooms, where he's paying hundreds of millions of dollars in New York City, and we used it to build this project.
But right on schedule, the liberal media and Democrats just took the bait on Alligator Alcatraz.
Alligators rarely attack people. Pythons rarely attack people. That is extremely performative.
They definitely want to scare people.
It's wasteful and an incredible risk to our ecological resources.
These are our friends and our neighbors. These are people who are picking our crops.
Ron DeSantis is still governor of Florida. He took the Comfy Couch hosts on a tour of the concentration camp that he's building in Florida in order to round up people, brown people, and throw them in a camp because he doesn't want them in Florida.
Greg, Joy Reid is so full of it. The couch is not comfy.
No, not at all. It's very stiff. Look.
I think that was an attempt by both of these dipshits to make a joke. I'm not certain, but I think that was an attempt.
The Dems fall for it. They call it cruel and inhumane. So.
No, I didn't, by the way. I would like to say, I'm as Alec Baldwin would say, a dyed-in-the-wool, carry-me-out-in-a-box Democrat, and the cruelty isn't the problem. My concern is that if they're really as bad as you say they are, why are you keeping them in a tent? And do you think these motherfuckers will be afraid to cross swampland? What are the toilets? They have air conditioning, there are toilets. That's not a problem there. It isn't. Like, that part of it's taken care of. They're not violating the Geneva Convention there. This is all for show.
How is it cruel and inhumane? Because it's remote, it's surrounded by alligators. There are like 100+ airports in Florida that meet that criteria.
See how he wrote that down as a joke? Oh, what's going on in the background? Hold on one second. Cam. How's your game going? Is it good? Are you having fun? Because we can hear you and it sounds fun. Okay. Psst. Love you. Good old game of gorilla tag still going strong. Yeah. Greg Gutfeld is the Alligator Alcatraz of comedy.
Everything in Florida is surrounded by alligators. How many pictures have you seen on this show of golf courses where an alligator comes up on the fairway and everybody's going, oh, look at the elevator?
Yeah, but you don't have to stay. You're not legally forced to stay on that golf course. Don't get me wrong. Mar-a-Lago is a shithole, but...
angle the Dems are going to exploit because they have nothing else is compassion, right? But it no longer works because they showed an...
Look at this. Benny Johnson shot this footage.
Overwhelming lack of compassion for the victims of sex trafficking among...
No, because you're asking us to take for granted that these people you're sending there are actually guilty of these things when you won't go through due process and it's all hidden. That's the concern, right? None of us worry about criminals and people who are violent perpetrators, and we do care about victims, but we don't want to make new victims just because you don't like brown people. How about that?
Illegals, the victims of rape and murder of illegals.
Sorry, like, does it matter that we care about the victims of rape and murder by citizens? Like Epstein and his victims and Trump's victims?
So you can't lecture us on empathy or...
Sure we can. Yeah, because you have to actually prove that people we're talking about are guilty of what you say they are.
Passion when all of yours are for the perpetrator.
Nope.
Great thing about Trump and what the left misses, he knows how to sell something.
Right. Even if it's not real, like Trump Steaks or Trump University or The Art of the Deal, even if it's complete bullshit, including a camp in the middle of the Everglades that's a bunch of fucking tents, very cheaply made, that are not permanent structures that will hold 3,000 people, but we don't know who those people are, if indeed they're even illegals, even if they're undocumented. Prove it. That's the issue. If you're going to prove that they're these awful people, and again, if there's 2.5 million of these, or I guess 25 million of these fuckers in there, and 10% of them, 2.5 million of them, are violent predators and terrible, violent people who they'll eat your face. If that's how many of them there are, what the fuck does 3,000 beds in tents do for that number? It won't make a dent.
Knows that you incentivize with words. He causes his message to do the heavy lifting, right? So if you're illegal with an opportunity to leave, you could leave now or take your chances and end up in a place surrounded by alligators.
What if you're a mother of two and you work in an office building in the janitorial services? Is that an option for you? Run or be put in a fucking alligator-surrounded camp in the middle of the Everglades? And why would that be? Why would they be the priority? And by the way, anybody who would self-deport is obviously not one of the criminals you're talking about. Why, if you're already a murderer and a rapist and all this stuff, you think you're going to worry about your citizenship status?
It might not even exist. It doesn't matter. He creates this in your head, which is why it's not surprising. 1 million people have already self-deported because there were 4.
Right. Allegedly. And by the way, they didn't self-deport. They gave up on their visa extensions and shit like that. Where were those fucking plane tickets?
4 words that served as the message. Biden's out, Trump's in. We better leave. So this is great. I love alligator Alcatraz. Sounds like it came from the makers of Sharknado, but it's all
right, because that has an animal in the title as well.
Part of the message of self-deportation, and he is a master at it. It's hilarious.
Then on the
It's hilarious. Unlike me.
Messaging, it's almost like Trump is good cop and bad cop, because they're saying he's leaning into the alligator thing. He's talking about, you step here, you step that way, you're still going to die if you run from them. But then they're also saying, hey, listen, it's air conditioned, you've got all the resources, this isn't hell on earth, it's a perfectly suitable prison. And
it's a perfectly suitable prison.
And I guess in that way, he kind of neuters their attacks, but also leans into the messaging he wants.
Right. Well, and also because it's catchy, right? Alligator, Alcatraz, and you can picture it. And I think it's better than trying to reopen the old Alcatraz. This makes a lot more sense. Plus, one of the guys.
Well, because Alcatraz, even in its heyday, you had to actually be found guilty in a court of law of something to be put in the place. So that complicates things as well. Whereas this, you could just fucking wear a mask and round people up, throw them in a goddamn van. Next thing they know, they're in the middle of the Everglades.
The Attorney General from Florida, he was on Newsroom this morning, and I said, well, how long do you think a stay is going to be at Alligator Alcatraz? And it's not years. Mm-hmm. He said days, possibly weeks, in some cases months if they have a bunch of due process hearings. So there's that. Also, the deterrence factor is also important. So it is illegal to cross into the country. And
this is where the zero tolerance thing from Stephen Miller, which is you're a criminal because it's illegal to come into the country. And it's different than you did something illegal or you broke a law, but you're a criminal. Even if you came here just to get a job, or you have a relative here, or you've got, you're raising children or something like that, everything you do is criminal because you crossed the border.
You might say, like what on the montage, you might say, well, but these are people that are doing work, and maybe they haven't done anything wrong, but they did do something wrong initially, and
Right. And so even though this place is for the worst of the worst, let's just start throwing in, single mom janitors or whatever who are working in the country under the table in alligator Alcatraz, because fuck them. What difference does it make? You think of it this way. You raped and murdered the country.
If they want to change that in Congress, they can try to do that. But
yeah, nobody's trying to change the laws about what it means to legally enter the country or illegally enter the country. We just want to have better asylum courts and better standards.
The deterrence factor is also important.
That's what this is about. This is what she is onto something here. That they're trying to make it scary. That by making it look cruel, it scares people off from coming here, and that's what helps them with this number.
Deportation is one thing. Plus, we have additional cooperation now from these countries and taking back their illegal immigrants.
Cooperation? We're paying them.
So all of these things are happening, and it is what President Trump promised to do. He promised to close down the border. That has happened. Bill Melugin was just reporting on X the numbers for June in terms of people coming across the border. It's at absolute record lows, and this is what people wanted.
Right, but then they also were expecting these millions of people deported. The idea that so many people had come across into the country that you got to get them all out because they're all violent predators and they're awful, and there's 25 million of them and you can't find them. It's weird.
If Congress wants to change somebody's work permit or ability to stay,
they did, and the Trump administration basically turned off people's asylum status like a light switch, made them illegal. They went from legal in the morning to illegal an hour later, and then deported them as if they'd been staying in the country for 5 years.
And work longer, they have the ability to do that. And
No, they don't.
I think President Trump would be willing to listen, but they can't get past their hatred of him. And
what are you talking about? What portion of the Democrat and Langford bill has Trump supported in helping those very people?
Grasping at straws to come up with a coherent message that they could.
She's projecting now.
Go to him with.
Harold, they said two things today that I thought were interesting to me, and this is just from the angle of how Democrats are objecting to it. They said if you're getting sent there simply because you're here illegal and you don't have a record that they want to put you in jail for, and I think it's right out of President Trump's mouth, is or maybe it was Ron DeSantis said, you could be at the gate of this place and choose to self-deport. But if you're a murderer or rapist, if you have those kind of charges, the worst of the worst, then they're going to keep you there. What of that?
Well, what if you haven't gone through due process and you haven't proved that they're murderers or rapists or whatever, and you're brought to the gate and you choose to self-deport and then you sneak back across, you just start killing people in another country? Fuck are you talking about?
Are Democrats objecting to it?
I have no clue. I think there's some Republicans who are raising concerns about this vote. But let me step back. I think that if this thing here works, I think it's great. I think there's a lot of theatrics here that I think may bother some, doesn't really bother me. But two, the border, the president has been outstanding on the border. The number of crossings has decreased so dramatically. It makes every American, particularly Democrats, to understand that there were things that the previous administration probably could have done, or not probably, certainly could have done to reduce those numbers. The hard part, Joey.
Well, yeah, a big portion of it was deny everybody who needs asylum. That would be the thing.
There's always been immigration. I served in Congress 25 years ago, and we were grappling with how do you provide paths to citizenship and who deserves a path to citizenship.
Mm-hmm. Still the same problem, dummy.
Who might be an undocumented worker. We're seeing now ask from industry, retail, agriculture, asking administration to have some leniency there. It's more complicated, more nuanced. Now,
you mean like the bills that people have tried to pass before?
Hierarchy of deportations is where the president's having his challenge. I hope that whomever populates Alligator Alcatraz, which is a clever name, Greg's right, the president's good at this performative stuff, that we put more violent criminals there than we do law-abiding gardeners and law-abiding dishwashers and law.
Well, first of all, let's say you've got the worst of the worst. You're bunking them all together, motherfucker, in a chain link fence surrounded by a tent. The worst of the worst could figure a way to get out of there. And if you assume that the alligators are going to keep them in there, you're out of your fucking mind. You could barely keep the rain out. You're going to keep the fucking rapists in? The fuck?
Abiding retail workers. Because as we're seeing, even to ask from the president's own supporters not to deport people whom are so critical to the economy.
Tough shit. No. You don't get to walk that back. Mass deportations now. That's the sign they were holding. Millions of people, 25 million. They're all from, murderers and rapists, and they're from insane asylums, right?
One thing we know as we look at this issue now is that the reliance that the United States economy has on for its mass.
Dude, I got to tell you, I could get out of that place by myself in, I don't know, give me an hour just to do it quietly. If I had help, if we were working together, Jesus Christ.
Positive performance on undocumented immigrants is larger than we thought even before the election.
Rosanna, when gardeners and retail workers and farm pickers, when they are employed under a false identity, claiming 14, 15 dependents so they don't have to pay weekly taxes, and then when the IRS catches up to them, they go into the shadows and come back to the same place sometimes with a different identity, they're not really law-abiding, are they?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, they also don't participate in any of the things that their tax dollars would go to, and their employer still has to pay into Social Security.
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I didn't say that.
I know you did, but that's a part of this conversation.
Let's face it. The migrants are very part of our ecosystem.
They are very part of our ecosystem. That is true. They are, extremely very.
People into the farmlands, picking those crops that we need as Americans. But, this is a flashpoint about land, power, and respect, right? Because the conservationists are coming out. And
yes, the conservationists. Those guys.
Say, you can't use this land. You're going to pollute our water. You're going to destroy our wildlife. You're going to reverse decades of Everglades restoration work. And then there's the Native Americans who say, wait a second, this is our land. You're not supposed to be doing anything like this on our land. And by the way, Governor DeSantis got this detention center up and running in 8 days.
It's tense. No shit. They're using like the same materials they use for like pop-up field hospitals for fucking hurricanes.
That could never happen in New York. We're talking about in New York doing.
What do you? They had a bunch of those things after 9/11. You dizzy fuck.
New jails in New York. It's taking years just to discuss it. Let alone.
Yeah, because they're jails in a fucking city. You don't want the people to. These aren't temporary sites. They're not building a fucking chain link fence or, inside a fucking wedding chapel tent that they throw up in a park.
On 8 days, that could never.
I don't know about the average New Yorker, but I'm gonna guess that none of them want the murderers and rapists and criminals and stuff that they catch and through due process, are given jail time or prison time to be put in a fucking tent.
Never happen in New York.
There's one thing that, when we talk about inflation, we always.
God damn. This is, whatever this is, it's going to be stupid. I can feel it. You know what I mean? Like, here it comes.
Talk about currency. But the Dems have managed to apply the principle of inflation onto people. Flood the country with cheap labor. You make the American workers here worth less.
Mm-hmm.
What? Sorry, the wage for janitorial services or like working in a food processing plant have gone down? Are you fucking nuts? What are you talking about? The quality of life of everyone in the country is higher because of that lower wage, because these people work under the table. That's one of the reasons why groceries are as cheap as they are. And why they're gonna go up. Good Lord. Like, I thought it was gonna be dumb. I have to say, I'm impressed at how dumb. Holy shit. Minimum wage is still $7 an hour. Depends on the state. Because some of them have gone well past that. Here's Kristi Noem talking about how this is for Trump. I think this has to do with where he got the Hannibal Lecter thing. By the way, hit the like, share the show, patreon.com/HalSparks. Oh, there's the Venmo. I forgot that was up there. If you feel like buying me a cup of coffee. And thank you guys. I'm going to do, in about 5 minutes or so, I'm going to do an Ask Me Anything. Thanks to everybody, because we hit our goal.
And earlier today, President Trump, he visited the grand opening of the new illegal immigrant detention center in Florida. It is dubbed Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah, except Alcatraz had fucking walls.
Alongside DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. During his trip, President Trump touted the work of the administration, what they have done to clean up the mess that Biden and Kamala Harris left. Take a look.
Again, you mean all those imaginary people that got in?
It's a great honor to be deep in Florida, the Florida Everglades, to open America's newest migrant detention center. If you care about balancing the budget, the single most impactful step we can take is to fully reverse the Biden migration invasion. I've gotten to know the Border Patrol.
Why? Honest to God, like, if there's ever a time you need cheap labor, it's probably when inflation is high. If you want, I mean, I don't recommend people working under the table or off the books or whatever, but that's why. That's why you would want it, because it keeps prices lower.
And ICE very well. Unlike Kamala, she was the border czar, but she never saw the border. She never made one phone call. She was some border czar. She would have been some president.
All right,
Agreed. And she wasn't the border czar. She was dealing with the cause of the migration, not the actual border itself, because the border has funding, and they were trying to pass a bill specifically for that.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem also slammed fake news CNN for appearing to promote an app that alerts people to ICE agents in the area. Now CNN is pushing back on the claims that they were promoting the app, instead saying that they were just reporting on the app.
Right. Like, if I asserted that Fox is hoping that people who have not been charged with a crime are eaten by alligators if they try to escape detention in a place where maybe they were picked up by people who did not show their credentials, were wearing masks, and brought them to a fucking tent in the Everglades.
Here's what they said yesterday. You get to decide.
I talked with Joshua Aaron, who is the longtime tech worker who developed this platform, and he said he really wants it to be an early warning system for people about the location of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officers. So he says he does not want people interfering with those officers' activity, but he does want people to be able to avoid them altogether. You open the app, it looks like a map, and users can tap the map to report an ICE sighting in their area, and then everybody who uses the platform within 5 miles of that sighting will get a push alert. This is a free iPhone app. It is anonymous. Aaron says he doesn't collect any user data.
Now, this new app comes amid a disturbing surge on assaults against ICE and federal agents that are conducting immigration raids. According to our own Bill Mallusion, between January 21st and June 30th of this year, these assaults were up nearly a whopping 700%.
Yeah, but how the engagements with ICE and people and the raids were up a lot too. You were kicking in a lot of doors, right?
Over the same time period.
Yeah, and last year they weren't kicking down doors of people's houses, masked, not wearing badges, and so people didn't know who the fuck people were that were storming into their houses. You're gonna get a lot more assaults. I would like to see what those assaults were, and whether, there were people throwing shit, or whether somebody barged into their house and they attacked them because they didn't know who the fuck they were.
Last year, Department of Homeland Security Secretary, she was with the president today. Kristi Noem is with us. Okay, 700% increase against agents, and you've got groups that are...
No. You don't get to say 700% increase assaults on agents unless you tell me the cases those happened in. 79 cases, 79. You can make a list of those. You can categorize those, And then you can categorize the ones from the year before, and you can go, oh, okay, this is just a volume because they're doing a lot more of these things. So there's more of them in the field, more of them in this situations, or maybe they changed the standard for what it meant. So last year, you actually had to put hands on somebody to consider it assault. Now, if you spit on them, Trump considers that assault, so it went through the fucking roof. Not that I recommend people spitting on anybody, but that might change our perception of that number.
And I had Pam Bondi on about this last night. They are...
Yeah, okay, big sniff right there. He's bullshitting.
Warning people, are they not aiding and abetting in the law breaking? Are they not responsible for obstructing justice? And she was very open to looking into the criminality of it or potential.
Great. I'm glad she's open to looking into the criminality. While she's open to looking into the criminality, Epstein files? Anything? That seems like you could open those up and see some criminality.
Criminality of it.
Yes, absolutely. I believe, in my opinion, that they are, and that's why I'm so thrilled that Pam is willing to be proactive and go after those individuals that would perpetuate this kind of activity against our law enforcement officers. These ICE agents.
Well, it doesn't actually perpetuate any activity at all. It just gets people to avoid them or whatever. So it's just like somebody spotting somebody. If I can see somebody and I can tell the person next to me that I see somebody, and then that person sees that person too, and then they run away because they don't like that person, I'm not... If that person is a police officer and says, oh, look, there's a bunch of cops over there. There's cops over there. The guy runs away because I said cops. I'm not in trouble because I passed it along. Freedom of speech. It's that pesky freedom of association, I guess you got to catch them, right? I'm not going to do your job for you. What is this, IKEA?
Enforcement officers, Border Patrol agents that get up every single day and are working to get these dangerous criminals off of our streets are heroes. They are absolute heroes. And to hear that the amount of violence that's coming up against them, a 700% increase.
Alleged violence, again, but the fact that they're just going by these numbers and then he's changed what the standard is I find hinky. And I do not recommend violence in any of these circumstances. If you're ever going to do any, civil disobedience and it's time for you to get arrested, do it without a peep. Be as friendly as you can. Be visibly peaceful, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not, then you really don't give a shit about the cause that you're fighting for because you were like, you don't get to arrest me. Nope. If you're willing to get, if you're trying to obstruct and you want to show your support for something and it requires you getting arrested, then be nice. Keep your mouth shut, call a lawyer, or use one of the people that's there, or ask for a public defender. Be honest about it. But don't punch somebody who's there because you put yourself in that position.
In just the last several months against them and their families, they're not just going after them. They're also doxing their families and threatening their children. And these individuals just love America and believe that the law should apply to everybody. They're doing their jobs that Joe Biden never let them do, and they're protecting their own communities.
There were more deportations under Biden than there have been under Trump. Year over year. In the last year versus this year. Just saying.
Remember that many of these law enforcement officers live in these communities. Their children go to those schools. They go to church there. These are their neighbors they're trying to protect. And to have someone like CNN openly describing how to use...
Also, that's not necessarily true about ICE. That's more true, again, especially the way these guys are doing it. Anyways, doesn't matter. If you see them and you go and you pass it on, you're not going to get in trouble for that. It's just silly.
Technology to reveal the activities and the operations that these law enforcement folks are trying to.
They're not. They couldn't possibly. They just, if they see them, maybe they're just passing through. Maybe it's everybody's jumping through their shirt for nothing.
To conduct, it's shameful and it could be prosecutable. So I'm glad that Pam is looking into it.
Great. Yes, it's right on the list, right under. The Epstein files, which, yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
And you said, I'm calling out you, CNN. I'm calling out you because you lie every single day about what these operate.
God damn, the sibilance. Is it just me or is that like tooth whistle from fucking Hannity is painful today? I haven't heard a tooth whistle like that since Scatman Crothers in The Shining. Say when somebody burns toast.
It's
like the gopher in fucking... Winnie the Pooh. Say, I hear you got a bear stuck in a hole.
There's been a lot of lying you know, Madam Secretary, it's been going on for 4 years. The border's closed. The border's secure. No, it's not. They've allowed in known terrorists, including from Iran. People need to know that.
Yes, known terrorists from Iran, meaning people who escaped Iran.
And murderers, rapists, and cartel members, drug dealers, other violent criminals.
Yes, but and a lot of those are now members at Mar-a-Lago.
Allowed them all in. We don't know the actual number, somewhere between 12 million, 20 million. How many gotaways? Nobody knows where the terrorists are. How do you find them?
They're everywhere.
It's like finding a needle in a haystack. But you're doing it. Apparently
Why would it be a needle in the haystack if there are that many of them? Are you kidding me? I mean, you're adding like 50,000 people minimum to small towns everywhere. You don't think people would notice?
Have found a lot of people with terror ties in the last 2 weeks.
Terror ties, meaning, let's say you're a Coptic Christian and you escaped Syria, but you're Syrian, and there's a lot of awful in Syria. So even though you're a Christian who escaped to try and save yourself, because you're from there, you have terror ties.
Oh, we absolutely have. In fact, President Trump, since he's been in office, has removed almost 600 known and suspected terrorists.
And suspected. The and suspected is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Thousands of violent criminals.
Meanwhile, he pardoned 1,200 Jan 6ers. Two of them are pedophiles, and one of them was just put back in jail for trying to murder somebody.
Individuals that are murderers and rapists and drug traffickers, human traffickers. And I talked today about...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the 4-year-old with cancer isn't one of those. But maybe you know something I don't. It's an ongoing investigation.
One of the horrific instances of our individuals, our law enforcement officers, having to put hands on individuals that were even cannibals and removing them from our country.
Dun, dun, dun. I hope they, when they put hands on them, they actually came back with hands.
These are deranged individuals.
I think that's a fair description of a cannibal.
That other countries released out of their prisons, out of their mental institutions, and sent them to America to roam on our streets and perpetuate violence against.
And they didn't stand out. They all got jobs until what? Was there a trigger word? Is there something? Because I would like to know, I'm just walking around, is there a particular word that turns them back into cannibals?
Our citizens. President Trump is just trying to follow through on what he promised the American people. And that.
Yeah, he's got to go into all these meatpacking plants and farms and stores and, all these people who are working as janitors and stuff that are all clearly cannibals in waiting and round them up by the hundreds of bazillions.
To get the worst of this worst out of this country so that they can raise their children in safety and apply.
Why do I want the worst of the worst to be able to raise their children in safety? Why do they even have children?
Apply the law equally to everyone, bring justice back to America, secure our border, but also get these dangerous criminals out. And I'm just so proud of him. This facility down in Florida is what I think should be the model for every single state.
Sorry, you think violent, dangerous criminals should be housed together in packs in tents? That's your fucking answer. For real.
Go out there and help us partner to provide an opportunity to detain these individuals, to process them under due process and get them out of our country.
Notice how they're saying that now, to process them under due process? Interesting, isn't it? You were about to think that you didn't have an impact and that the Kilmar Abrego Garcia thing is kind of like done and dusted, but no. Congratulations. You actually did something and it changed how shit works. They're having to even at least pay lip service to abide by the law. Now it's up to us to make sure they do, but they weren't even pretending to say it.
As fast as possible. These kind of partnerships can happen everywhere. We just need governors and leaders to step up and do their jobs.
The DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, Tricia
He's Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. Jesus.
Lachlan said that you have been able to, since you took over in January, it led to the detention of over 250,000 people. You're averaging nearly 50,000 arrests per month. That's a lot of arrests. But yet it's.
Yeah, but arrests are just stopping people. That doesn't mean you're processing them. It doesn't even mean they're not citizens. ICE can arrest somebody who's a citizen. They have to turn them loose.
Really,
or turn them over to another law enforcement agency if they engage in something violent, for example.
It's the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
It is, Sean, but what's amazing to me is, so I just got back last week. We went to 4 countries in 3 days. We went to Honduras, Costa Rica, Panama, Guatemala, and all those presidents that I met with the president of every country and their leaders, and they said, we have our people coming home. Because you have shown that there's consequences now for breaking the law and coming into America illegally, our people are coming home and they're self-deporting and you don't even know about it. We're setting up
I'm sure that happened.
Loans for them to buy houses. We're setting up food assistance and getting them training for jobs. We're giving their children scholarships. We want our...
Right. Because they weren't released from jails. Because they're not fucking violent. Because they're hardworking people. Jesus Christ, lady, you are undermining your stupid talking point. Why the fuck would the leaders of these countries go, oh dear, we emptied out our asylums and our prisons, and now those people are coming back, so we're getting them college loans. What the fuck?
People to come home, because President Trump has clearly said that he wants people in the United States that have come legally, and they're facilitating all of this. They said, you don't even know about the tens of thousands, hundreds.
No, you don't even know. They're not even sure. There's tens of thousands, bazillions.
Of thousands of people that have left the United States. And so we're collecting all of that data.
What's that data? What's the data you're collecting? Did you make a little note? They said tens of thousands of people have come back here. Oh, they did? Did they? Yeah? And those people were murderers and rapists and killers and terrible people? Oh, no, they were hard workers. They're getting them home loans, are they? So you're getting cannibals home loans. This is what's happening?
As to the illegal immigrants that have left on their own, so that we know truly the number that, and when they leave on their own, they know they've gotten the clear message. They'll have the chance to come back legally. If they wait until we detain them, until we arrest them and deport them ourselves, they'll never get the chance to come back to America. So they're telling their individuals, come back to our country and do it right, and then you may have the chance to go back and work in America and provide for your family if you do it the right way.
And if the dollar collapses and we become a third world country because Donald Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
This is critical for law and order and safety and security. You're all doing a great job. Thank you for your hard work.
No, she's not. She just told you, asshole. They're looking for 25 million insane psycho cannibals, and they've got a camp that will hold 3,000 of them in a tent. Meanwhile, allegedly, we're not doing anything. These people are just leaving on their own. And they're good people. All the good people are leaving. People who are getting home loans and job placement and education back in their home countries. Because when they return, they're good people. They're being welcomed back in their own countries because they weren't awful. Like you said they were.
Your dedication, and this big beautiful bill is going to provide a lot of needed money for you to finish the job, and we wish you all the success. Madam Secretary, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Jesus Christ. All right, AMA, let's do this. Because we met our goal, and that was very lovely, and I appreciate you guys very much. The little tip jar got filled up right there on the desk. It's fantastic. I don't know what the fuck is on with this phone right here. That phone makes sense over there. This one just got a dial with no headset. This thing has got to be a special phone. This has got to go straight to the nuclear silo. I'm afraid to touch it. There you go. My voice is getting rough. I think it's okay. It's okay. I think I did a lot of talking today. How that launches the missiles. Shh, don't tell anyone. I know. All right, let's get to Sean Lewis is tired from kissing so much ass. Well, I don't know. Maybe it becomes natural. He's basically like a human centipede at this point. Tenacious optimist will really. Sorry. Do you have a P.O. box yet? Wanting to send you something for a bit? Yes. It's CSL posts it in the chat room. Favorite Triumph song? Well, Fight the Good Fight, I think, is right up there. Yeah? I mean, thank you, Stephanie. Let's see. If there weren't going to be midterms, Republicans wouldn't stress the BS bill. Agreed. Right. How have you been keeping up with voting statistics? You mean the case that there was voting manipulation? I mean, it's growing around it, but it isn't going to affect things. We have to fix it on our end. Thank you, Andrea. What superpower do you want? Telekinesis, because if you can move something with your mind, you could also float yourself, so you'd get flying as a secondary power, I think. Do you guys ever see Chronicle? I feel like that's what you would get. Telekinesis would be the one to go to, because it's got a lot of extensions. A Libra could say what birthday day you have. Yeah, September 25th. Me and the Major both have the same birthday. All caps repost. What's all the grunting in the background? That's my son playing Gorilla Tag on VR. The voting fraud by Trump. Yes, that's what I was talking about. Could you interview Kat Abu on your Saturday show? I suppose. Favorite Beatles song? It's a tough one, but I'm going to go with Yesterday. And the reason I'm going to go with Yesterday is because my grandparents had a 45 of Yesterday, and my cousin Jerome and I, there were very few records at my grandmother's house. And so we would listen, that was one we would put on over and over again. Public school teacher in Southern Ohio, state just cut funds. I mean, I wish I could say that they were doing it on accident or because they think it's fraud, but I think they really do want to cull the herd. Hal, thank you for your inspiration insights. I appreciate your commentaries and passion. Well, William, my motto, care enough not to give a shit. You got to be able to keep soldiering on. Favorite Monty Python sketch? The fish slapping dance? God, I mean, it's, again, so many. Yeah, there's the one, it's really simple. Michael Palin comes up to John Cleese, who's playing a police officer, and he's like, excuse me, I just, sitting on a park bench over there a minute ago, and I got up, and I noticed my wallet was missing, and 25 pounds had been taken out of it. And the guy was good, did you see anybody around? He goes, no, I didn't see anybody. Is there anything I can do? He goes, well, there's not a lot we can do in a situation like that, unless you actually saw someone. And then Michael Palin goes, would you like to go back to my place? And the guy goes, yeah, all right. And they just walk off together. You can tell they needed like time filler, and they wrote it super fast, but goddamn, it's funny. Silly Walk's amazing. Yeah. Throat Wobbler Mangrove. Raymond Luxury Yacht. This pettit is no more. Are you familiar with the Bonzo Dog Band, very Python adjacent? I've heard them. I think I have one of their tracks, I want to say, on a Dr. Demento record. Yeah. How'd you see the CBS Sunday Morning piece about the Doors? They featured Whiskey a Go-Go and Thought of You. Yeah, well, the Doors were the house band at the Whiskey. And I have had the joy of performing on stage with Robbie Krieger, so that was cool. Although I'm not a Doors fan per se, largely because I think Jim Morrison's a deplorable human being. Just going by the stories from the 12-year-olds that hung around his pool. Have you ever seen A Clockwork Orange? Of course I have. Saw A Clockwork Orange in high school at Sean Cooper's house. Yeah. Yeah. Did you go? Hey, nudge, say no more. Do you consider the Doors the grandfathers of New Wave? No, I do not. I think they were riding the top end of the 60s. That they were finding the commercial end of like psychedelia. Will you play Gorilla Tag? Yeah, I play Gorilla Tag with Camden sometimes. Yeah. How do you still do martial arts? Yes. I don't take classes here. I haven't found a place that I like. Still study. I have two of my two staffs in the yard, and when it's not blazingly hot, I will do forms in the backyard with them. Is Elon irrelevant? No. There's a limit to his relevance, but he's not our problem anymore. He's Trump's. That's, I think, the one thing you could say about him right now. It's not going to change Tesla's sales. It's not going to salvage the image of SpaceX or Tesla. Have you seen Surviving Ohio State? I haven't. I have not watched that all the way through yet. I've seen the Joe Biden's fault video. No. How was the sandstorm? It was crazy, and it was raining today outside. It was like really, like CSL, I'm sure will tell you, it was like oddly overcast, very heavy cloud cover, but it was almost like tornado weather. If you're from the Midwest, you'd recognize, you're like, this looks like we're expecting a tornado, and like raindrops the size of your thumbs. Will the House pass the BB bill? I don't, in its form, I don't think so. I think there's a very strong chance. I mean, again, you can't really tell, but we're in the faux part of this situation. You know, the reality that we are in is that Donald Trump was handed a tremendous amount of power by Democratic voters who didn't show up, and we are going to be paying that debt for some time. Do you know Noel Kessler? I've met him, and online. I've not. We've spoken. We did a virtual sexy liberal thing together. He's a good dude. Writing on the Wall by Triumph. That's a great song. Yes. Was the pick of power polls down in Valencia and Las Vegas true? I haven't seen it, but it's not surprising. Do you like Anna Kasparian? She hates me, so what I feel about her is immaterial. I think she's politically terrible. As a human being, I reserve judgment. I don't care. But what I will say is that what she does for a living is damaging to the lives of the vulnerable. Have you ever had a dog? I did when I was little, and it bit the mailman, and they put it down, and I've been pissed about it ever since. And I would love to have one again. Do you believe the U.S. landed men on the moon? If so, why didn't any other country? Well, because they didn't have the available technology at the time, and then the goal of doing it was limited in its value, so they stopped because it became about the Cold War, and once that faded, there was a lot of manipulation going on between our relationship with Russia and China and the like, and people were focused on other things. And there was a bunch of people during that time. I think if you watch like the Apollo 13 movies or For All Mankind or any of those, that like people starving here, Whitey's on the moon, those kind of songs that had an impact on how people felt about space travel and how they felt about space exploration. How can you do that when people are starving here on Earth? And one of the reasons why we could do it is because we could prioritize it. But the other countries in the world, they had bigger fish to fry, in theory. But we did go. He was a little beagle. Do you like the band Cake? I don't know. I don't dislike them, I suppose. Do you worry about raising your son in America as it is today? No, I do not. No. I'm raising my son. He will be just fine. I guess the question we've all got to ask is, where is the kidney ultimately? Oh no. What's happening? What in the world? That's so weird. Oh, it's playing through there. I see. I'll have to play it in here.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
Did that actually do it? That actually, I don't know what the hell happened. All right. That I did not just get all wavy. I don't know what that was. I don't know what you're talking about. There you go. To Boston Terry. Aw. So Voidy knows now is very scary. It was. It reached 217. Okay. Do they have one more, I think? But that's just a procedural vote. They still have to do it 2 more times. Not the vote itself, right? Got the tail. Oh, I see. The tail end came in. Good. Okay, it worked. What Marvel or DC hero you want to play? I would love to do Moon Knight, but they already fucked it up. Something in there. How for engagement have a channel points reward and Twitch for that's a good idea. Like 50, 75 million channel points for AMA or something, or HAL streaming Gorilla Tag or something. That's a great idea. I love that idea. I have to set up the headset so that I can stream through here, but that would be nuts. Is your gray cat a Nebula? No, he's a Russian blue. Should play Union Jack. That's not bad. Yeah. Hal doing his own version of the weave. It's true. Is your son funny? Yes, he is. What song would we be surprised you love? I don't know, because I don't, let's see. How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees? I see your eyes in the morning sun. I feel you touch me in the pouring rain. And the moment that you wander far from me, when I feel you in my arms again. Right? Yeah, I like it. I really do. I genuinely like that song. It's sweet. Any chance you're bringing back the older original chiptune sounding theme song once in a while? Yes, I have it. Yep. I've gotten Ficus out of jail. No, I'm still working on it. I'm sorry. I'm trying something. Disco has its moment. Too Much Heaven. All right. There you go. How deep is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you. I believe in you. Right? What do you miss about not acting? Well, I mean, I intend to more, just, not in a hurry to make a lateral move working again. There's some stuff coming up, just saying. But I mean, I love the challenge of the character, right? I love the challenge of trying to match what's on the page and what I can do as an instrument. Mm-hmm. Your ears are bleeding. That is me and my wife's favorite song. Oh, that's nice. What amps do you use for your guitar? I have some classic Marshalls. And then I have a couple of Line 6 heads that I like. I have a Line 6 tube head Spider amp that I like a lot. Would you act in a play? Of course. I've done many plays. I did Shakespeare just right after the pandemic, and I've done Equus. I've done Brighton Beach Memoirs. Yeah, I like plays. What do you think of the Ethel Merman disco music? Do I speak jive? No, I do not. I don't. I can't. Sorry. Favorite Van Halen jam? Well, song-wise, I mean, you guys know that I'll Wait is my favorite Van Halen song, although I will say that there are a couple of songs that have grown on me over the years. See the connection between the war on drugs and the immigration? Hold on. What? An immigration and crime situation in the world today. Are you ready to legalize everything yet? No, I'm not, Groove Dragon. And the reason I'm not ready to, quote, legalize everything is Portland, Oregon. Look at everywhere that has fully legalized stuff, and it just ends up with a bunch of dead people. And if your idea is the only way around or to deal with addiction is just to let a big chunk of the addicted kill themselves, that would be your solution, because that's what happens every single time. It's just true. Now, you could say that's a one way to solve it. I don't think so. I think anything that can poison you with relative ease should be illegal. Is Summer also an actor? No. She's a dancer, and she worked in magic shows. Yeah, but hashtag Rip Portland. Were you a Speed Racer fan? No, my cousin Jerome was a huge Speed Racer fan. I liked I was into Robotech, and then I was like, as a series, that was the one that I liked. And then from a movie standpoint, Ghost in the Shell is one of my favorite movies because of the overall theme of it. Fart box for Johnny's guitar ever come in? No, I decided not to mail it. I'm going to bring it to him because I'm going to see him next week, so I'm bringing it with me. Yeah, I loved Akira. Yeah, Speed Racer's great. It just wasn't my thing, Voltron was very cool. Yep. Yeah, Cowboy Bebop. I watched some of it. I was never a huge thing. Okay, Boston Brian is on? Excellent. How about I throw it to him? Legalized across the board would mean quality control of the drugs, not street drugs. No, it doesn't. It didn't even mean that for pot. Look at California. They legalized all of it, and then the underground weed market grew, and the intensity of the weed grew along with it to unhealthy levels. It doesn't work that way. You got to treat it with the care that the damage it can do. You got to have respect for it, and if you have addiction issues, you got to help people deal with that addiction. Period. All right. So, we've seen people try this a myriad of times. I'm going to throw to Boston Brian. Give me 1 second while I bring that up, and then we shall see. Whoops. Oh, I see. That's why this is. Because I have to bring this out and put it in a different thing, and I'm going to do it. God damn it. Twitch. And I hope that answers some of your questions on there, folks. As you do. There's so much weird shit on Twitch. Creator dashboard. There we go. Portland will be fine. Yeah, now that they've rescinded that. They legalized all that stuff. And then so many people were dying, they had to stop it. Well, the bill didn't pass the procedural vote they have to do. They still have more stuff to do, I think. They have one more procedural vote. But we'll see. But again, we're in the faux part of this, folks. I got to tell you, we're going to start a raid on Boston Brian. I'll send everybody over. But we're going to have to clean up this damage. For real. We're going to have to repeal the tax cut and pass laws. We're going to have to elect enough people to do it. And it's on our shoulders if it passes. It's not, oh my God, the Democrats did this. Oh my God, Trump. No, doesn't work that way. We have to take responsibility. We got to show up. Election after election after election. I don't give a shit if people use the right nicknames for things or catchphrases or words or wear the right bumper sticker. If they don't show up and vote, it doesn't fucking matter at all. So I'm sending you guys over there. Have fun. Tell Boston Brian I said hi, and we'll see you real soon.
They can't even get themselves
there he is.
On the same.
Come on. Anyways, take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And I'm going to go play around with the kids. I'm going to feed my kid. And then I think we're going to go see Jurassic Park tomorrow morning, like for a matinee, because my mom's here. We're going to do that. All right. What's this? Hold on. What does this button do? Oh, yeah. That's cool. Look at that. Oh, yes. Baby. Yes. Where's my credits? There they are. Thank you guys so much. Send Boston Brian my love.